Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Bree Stevens Field here in Madison, Wisconsin, as we take you to the top of the hour and get you set for the start of Week 8 here in the Ultimate Frisbee Association. It's the Radicals and the Windchill, these two border rivals meeting for the first time this season, for the first time since Minnesota won the championship. Windchill enter at 4-1. The Radicals are 3-2. An important game in the Central Division race. Right now, both these teams looking up at 3-0 Chicago. We got a glorious night for Frisbee, and Friday Night Frisbee is presented by Pabst Light, America's quality light beer. You know, Monday and Tuesday this week, the weather looked nasty. They were calling for thunderstorms, and it looked like it could be ugly, and instead it is absolutely beautiful. And we welcome you into our broadcast booth alongside Ian Toner. I'm Evan Lepler, and Ian, we just crossed over the midway point of the season, and around the league, there's a heck of a lot of uncertainty. If I asked you who's your pick to win the championship right now, you could probably spot out any 8-9 teams that are in the mix. No doubt. I love how exciting, competitive, parity-oriented, and deep the league is this year. There aren't foregone conclusions that the Empire are going to run away with the East, or that Atlanta or Carolina is going to run away with the South. There are so many teams in the mix in every division, and there's so many teams that are getting pieces back, you know, from the college season, from U24 commitments, that we still have yet to see some of these teams in their true final form and understand exactly how they're going to look down the stretch as well. Well, the Central Division has often been regarded as an inferior quadrant in the league. And some of that is legit, and some of it is perhaps a little overstated. Minnesota Windchill certainly made it look overstated with what they did last year at championship weekend. And the Madison Radicals are the only other team in the Central that has a UFA championship to their credit. So these are two programs that have won titles set to go at it here tonight. And the Windchill really believe that they can be back at championship weekend again, because they've made their team better than what it was last year. No doubt. You look at the additions of Justin Burnett and James Pollard and getting other guys to come back. You know, think of all the youth that has another year under their belt. You know, Thomas Shope winning a college championship with Carleton. Ryan Dusair isn't even active tonight, and they're trying to figure out the best way to integrate him. There's just so many pieces, both from the free agent spectrum, from within their system, that are growing and accumulating. This is a program that feels like it's still on the come up of growing towards its kind of athletic prime, and the championship window is 100% still open. It's been almost 2 years since the Minnesota Windchill lost a game outside of the Twin Cities. That was a game at Colorado, June 24th of 2023, when they got shellacked. Since then, they've won every single road game, 9 regular season road games. They've won 11 straight outside of the Twin Cities, if you count the wins over DC and Carolina and Salt Lake last year at championship weekend. So they're a strong team traveling, and they made a statement a few weeks ago when they took on the Atlanta Hustle at TCO Stadium, because, you know, vibes weren't great coming off their early Chicago game, but they showed they can compete with a team that's widely regarded as one of the championship favorites. Yeah, that was a really impressive performance, and I think it kind of spoke to the Windchill's identity, right? Like, that's a group that can make defensive plays when you need them. That's a group that can quick strike and counterattack when you need them to. I think one of the big questions tonight and in the second half of the season for the Windchill is, hey, how is this offense going to find its rhythm? How is this offense going to settle into a comfort zone? It really is funny how similar the Windchill and Radicals are. I think the Windchill have a little bit more talent up and down the roster. Madison integrating a new head coach. Jake Spiro has been on Tim DeBile's staff since the very beginning, back in 2013. This is a tight-knit group, and not just because you're seeing a huddle. They believe in each other. They believe that they can be in the Central mix. They don't think that they are an afterthought behind Chicago and Minnesota. What do they have to do tonight to prove to you that they belong in that top trio? Look, I, along with many other fans who've
taken in a number of their games, have seen the potential of this group. I have seen them hang tight with a Chicago for several quarters. What I haven't seen is a complete, consistent performance on both sides of the disc for 4 quarters. That's tough to ask. That's tough to execute here in the UFA. It's a grueling game. There are a lot of variables, a ton of factors outside your control. But if you have sets and systems and lines that you trust and that have chemistry and comfort, you can do it. And yes, to be a champion, you need to be able to adapt and roll with the punches. But I just want to see an even keel, consistent effort on both sides of the disc for 4 quarters from them, and particularly the Madison O-line that, you know, historically, maybe you go back to their championship era, that was a stronger group, but since then, the D-line has been the identity group for the Madison Radicals.
Well, they do have the crowd on their side tonight, and these crowds make a difference here at Breese-Stevens Field. Madison has not lost a home game since their first home game of last season, so that's a competing streak going against the wind chill tonight. The Breeze have won, or I should say the Radicals have won their last 8 here at Breese-Stevens Field, and you know, everybody's chasing the Union atop this Central Division right now. Minnesota goes to Chicago on July 4th, which is the other really big game in the Central Division race just a few weeks away.
I'm envious of you and your colleagues who are going to be focused on that game. Of course, I'll be focused on Colorado and Salt Lake that weekend, but what an unbelievable weekend that's going to be in the UFA.
Ian, the 2 guys that are going to touch the disc the most for their teams tonight are likely Will Brandt and Kai Marcus. And Will certainly made a name for himself with his UFA debut here in this stadium 4+ years ago. And then a championship weekend last year, took the MVP honors. What do you like about Will? What do you want to see from him tonight?
Look, what I like about him is his ability to distribute and put the disc lots of different places on the field. I also like what I learned from him in championship weekend, his resolve and ability to respond in the face of adversity. You know, there was a moment at championship weekend last year where he dropped a pull, and then he just came back out there and was his good old consistent offensive distributor self. I mean, in this league where you're placing a lot of premium on getting good throws off to good spaces, when you've got someone with his size who can stretch out and get those kind of release points around any kind of mark, traditionally handler defenders tend to be smaller guys. He can shred those and make those, render those relatively insignificant.
I asked Will earlier tonight, what do you call that hairstyle up top? And he said, the time to get a haircut.
Okay, all right.
The wind chill will try to get turnovers from Kai Marcus, and that has become a little bit tougher this year. He's done a better job making the right choice and engineering the offensive attack on the Radicals' terms.
Yeah, I think in years past, you would have been a smart man betting on a certain number of turnovers from him, but as you were hinting at, he's kind of tightened his decision-making criteria and execution this year, and you can tell, especially since that Texas road trip that the Radicals had to start the season, you can tell that he's taken new things into mind, and it's really helping the efficiency of the offense.
Well, earlier today, we had a chance to catch up with Anthony Gutowski and Noah Chun-Moy, a couple of the young standouts for this Madison team, and we got their thoughts on what the Radicals look like here in 2025.
Noah Chun-Moy, Madison Radicals. So, first year playing with the Radicals, general vibe of the team. It's just been a lot of fun. We got a lot of athletes, and the culture is really amazing here. People come for the city of Madison to watch the Radicals, and being part of that is really special. And the respect for the team, the respect for Tim and the program is amazing to be a part of. So biggest hurdles this season for us as a team, I think a little bit of the weather and practice schedule, but also just being able to mesh together. It's a lot of people have been on the team but haven't been in the roles that they are playing this season. We're playing the wind chill, and as far as style, I've heard that the wind chill try to replicate a lot of what the Madison Radicals have done because it's been around longer. Stylistic-wise, I think it's just going to be a grunge match. Like the Central just seems to, it's always a dogfight. Like blow for blow, very good players, very talented players on both sides. So I think it's going to be close. That's what I'll say.
Anthony Gutowski, Madison Radicals. Madison is where I first started playing at a high competition level, and I mean, they trusted me. I've like grown into their, still as a younger person on the team, I've kind of grown into this group of having a bunch of older guys to look up to that also want to try and help me play better and everything. So I think it's great. Playing at Breeze is awesome. It's like the coolest thing in the world. I feel like we struggle in a lot of our games early on, at least. And especially at the beginning of the season, it was not where we wanted it to be, but it's progressively gotten better and better. Minnesota's defense is real good. They've carried them not carried, but they've been a big part of why they won the championship last year and their success for the season so far. And like I said earlier, our offense can stay clean and score and not to have any costly self-inflicted turnovers. I think it'll be a close, fun game tonight.
Oh, that's on camera now.
Yeah, I'm taking that.
Well, Anthony Gutowski certainly brings some personality to the Radicals, and they need that. They need to redefine their identity going into this next era, because the last few years have kind of been a bridge from the mid-2000s Radicals team that was in championship weekend every year, and they're trying to reignite that passion.
Yeah, it's a great way to characterize it. And I think this energy from the Breeze Stevens Field crowd is something that can help with that identity, help with that personality, and help with that enthusiasm.
Well, it's a fascinating weekend coming up here in the Ultimate Frisbee Association. Every game can be seen on watchufa.tv. There's one other game tonight, Salt Lake Shred, first place in the West, taking on Oregon. And then tomorrow we got Boston against Montreal at 1 o'clock. And then New York, D.C. in the game of the week at 7 o'clock. But the week in the Frisbee Association begins in just a couple of minutes. Ben Feldman's wind chill here at Breeze Stevens Field, where they have won in 5 of their last 6 trips. This is a place that the Radicals used to never lose. And yet Madison hopes to find their form tonight. And look, a Radicals win tonight would reshape the race in the Central Division in a big way. Madison's 3-2, trying to stay clearly above the bottom 3 in this division. See what Kai Marcus and Jake Spyro and company can do as we get you set for Ultimate. That's it for the Pabst Live pregame show. Quick timeout, and then UFA Friday Night Frisbee coming up next.
there's a buzz and a spirit that you can't find anywhere else. But that mystique does not intimidate the reigning UFA champs, who over the past half-decade have transformed the capital city of Ultimate into their own magical haven, where Wind Chill Winds have become basically an annual event. Tonight in this iconic venue, Madison is desperate to defend its home turf, while Minnesota seeks another marquee moment in the spotlight. It's the Wind Chill and the Radicals here in Week 8 of Friday Night Frisbee. Next.
Welcome to a beautiful Friday night here on the Isthmus, the capital city of Ultimate, Madison, Wisconsin. And Bree Stevens Field, just down the road from the square. We got a picture-perfect Friday evening for Frisbee. It's the Wind Chill and the Radicals, game number 6 of the year for both squads. Minnesota's 4-1, Madison's 3-2, and we launch Week 8 here in the Ultimate Frisbee Association here this evening. Good evening, everybody. Evan Lepler with Ian Toner. It's great to have you with us, and if you can believe it or not, 10 weeks from tonight, we'll be right back here for championship weekend. 70 days from now, semifinal Fridays. Minnesota knows they can win a championship. They did it last year, and they might be even better than they were a year ago.
Yeah, they've added a lot of great pieces. They've seen a lot of their young talent get another year of experience, get a chip under their belt, get a college championship under their belt, some of them as well. They're a scary group right now, and the Central is incredibly exciting to follow.
One of the big new additions, obviously, the Callahan Award winner from a couple years ago, Justin Burnett out of Emory University, previously played for the Atlanta Hustle. And joining along with James Pollard to the Minnesota Wind Chill defense, he's just a bona fide playmaker, and he shows up in big games.
Yeah, he loves the spotlight. He's hungry for it, and good luck trying to get any discs past him in the deep space, trying to burn him to the underspace. And good luck not getting victimized by his ability to quick strike on a turn or leave people in the dust when he's in the stack. He's just that dynamic, that versatile, that dangerous, and for Minnesota to get a travel player of his caliber, pretty unbelievable.
He will be hunting his 10th block of the season tonight in the first quarter, and he'll probably be trying to stop Madison's #1 goal scoring threat. That's Anthony Gutowski. They call him Gumby, and around the end zone, his first step is diabolical.
No question, and I think the way that this Madison offense has evolved and kind of the post-Pat Schreiwise and company era, as Gumby goes, so the Madison Radicals offense goes. This is a group that's been really looking to find consistency and find rhythm, and there's no doubt that he's an incredible threat, both with and without the disc. Speed, size, instincts, everything. He will need to be on form, ready to go head-to-head with the likes of Burnett, and ready to execute with a lot of pressure on his shoulders tonight.
Radicals need a big game from him. He was second in the league with 53 goals a season ago. That was a Madison single-season franchise record. Just a couple of minutes away from the opening pull here on Free Friday Frisbee. Madison and Minnesota, the border battle. These two teams have had a lot of thrilling wars in the past. Expect another great game tonight. Settle in. Friday Night Frisbee. Opening pull coming up.
like a pro with a new Pro Ultimate Frisbee. Created with input from the sport's premier passers, the Pro Frisbee is specially designed to fly through the wind and maintain its edge. Experience the official Frisbee of the UFA and get yours.
We are just underway here at Bree-Stevens Field. Opening pull presented by Pabst Light, and after a centering pass to Will Brandt, it's an incompletion looking for Paul Krennick, and an immediate break opportunity for the Madison Radicals.
Listen, Jacob Spiro's group knows how important it is for them to get off to a hot start, and this is about as nice a gift as they could have asked for.
Jake Spiro sprinting down the sideline, and he takes a timeout. Has to be the quickest timeout I can ever remember in a UFA game. Just 32 seconds gone by. But Spiro was telling us how one of the changes of being the head coach means he needs to haul his you-know-what down the line to get the attention of the referee, and he was able to do it there. And now the offensive coordinator, Ben Gagne-Maynard, will orchestrate something here for Kai Marcus and the Radicals O-line. Huge opportunity here in the opening point after an unforced error from the wind chill, which has kind of been their bugaboo so far this season, Ian.
Yeah, that O-line has still been working to find its rhythm and level of comfort, and just what a gift here for Madison. It's going to be on Kelson Alexander and company to see if they can take advantage of it.
Alexander initiates, marked by Noah Hansen. Here's Kai DiLorenzo. Radicals are really high on Kai D. The veteran Alexander, Burnett suffocating Gutowski downfield. DiLorenzo snares it against Lacey.
Yeah, he wanted that cut to continue to that far cone, but no one came to that spot when he caught the swing.
Well, so far the wind chill D-line has stood tall. Marcus just shy of the goal line for Alexander, and into the end zone it's Gutowski. The Radicals break just over a minute into the ball game.
Took a little patience, took a few extra throws, but the Radicals made the most of that opportunity, and we get another look at the turnover. I mean, I'm going to put that on Brandt a little bit too. Kind of an awkward blading throw low and behind Krennick. I know he got a hand on it, but not the release. And here's Marcus just getting the hockey assist, flexing his creative ability there by stepping out with the ultra low release point and getting Alexander on the doorstep for the offhand finish.
Sam Stark with the pull. It's a good one. Fielded by Savel Fernandez in the back of the end zone. And you talked about Will Brandt's mindset and relentlessness in the pregame show, Ian. But he's thrown 2 turnovers in the game's opening 2 minutes, in the Radicals unable to convert as Robert could not make the catch, perhaps thinking about his feet more than catching the Frisbee.
That is, boy, we don't have elements influencing this game. These are just some weird mistakes in the first few points.
And it was windy in warm-ups, but they say it usually settles down right around 7 o'clock here in Madison, and that's the case again tonight. Greg Cousins, veteran O-line players, back looking for Vinoka, and he's got the opening score for Minnesota. Bevon as steady as they come for the chill.
I mean, we got to remember this sequence if this ends up being a tight game, as Brandt just can't connect, and then Robert, I don't know, man. You got to find a way to catch that one. And like you said, how do you stop Bevon when he's cooking in the red zone? Man's an athlete. 1-1 here in Madison.
Bevon playing his 96th UFA game tonight. He's the all-time leading goal scorer in wind chill history. That was his 220th career goal. And there's James Pollard getting ready to pull. Out there with Justin Burnett as well. Pollard, of course, many years with the Philadelphia Phoenix. Madison centers to Marcus, who played college ultimate at the University of North Carolina before they started winning all their championships. DiLorenzo is a college champion at the D3 level at Middlebury. Ooh. DiLorenzo able to pop back up and get it to Gutowski. Double team comes.
I mean, look how hard Gutowski's having to work for 2 unders, and Madison's barely at their brick mark right now.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to just keep an eye on Burnett and Gutowski through the first quarter of this game and see how they continue to duel downfield. Ted Shuey swings it for Alexander. Marcus, so it's a switch downfield.
Yeah, that was a prudent holster.
Ronabout was going deep, but Pollard was there defensively. Burnett doubles off on Alexander, who calmly resets for DiLorenzo. Gabe Vordick, quick dish back for Kai D. And looking in Marcus's direction, but it's Burnett with a poach block. And the first break opportunity for Minnesota.
I thought Marcus got away with a small push off at the front of the stack too, but doesn't matter because Burnett was hunting.
Bergmeyer and DeClerc just working their way down the field. Now here's Pollard. Centers for Tristan Vandy Mortel. Minnesota on the march. Bergmeyer through the contact of the double team. Vandy Mortel looking for Dylan DeClerc in the end zone. Minnesota breaks.
Really impressive to me how quickly Minnesota was able to march up the field on the counterattack. I mean, independent of that turnover, we look back at the previous point. This game should have been 2-0 Madison. And now we're at the point where this game is back on serve and the wind chill are up 2-1. We got a ton of game left to go, but those are the type of opportunities that Madison can't let slip through their fingertips, and they got to mount a little more resistance after the turnover. That was just too easy for this counterattack from the wind chill.
No doubt. Dylan DeClerc has scored a lot of goals for a lot of Minnesota breaks through his time. Became the wind chill's all-time blocks leader last week. Something he was excited about, passing his longtime teammate Jimmy Kittleson. So we talked about O-Prime and how important that was going to be tonight. Noah Chunmoy sending Jake Carrico. He's got him, and he's in. Now, if you're with us for the pregame show, we heard from Noah Chunmoy, who grew up here in Madison and has played for several other teams in this league in recent years. This is his first year as a Radical, and he has been perhaps the most important addition in 2025 for the Rads.
I mean, what a treat for the fans right there as Carrico goes full speed into the end zone and tumbles to the turf right in front of that fan section. I mean, you just can't get enough of the atmosphere here at Breeze Stevens. This is such an unbelievable crowd.
Keys to victory tonight, Ian. We talk about consistency and O-Prime. O-Prime being the line that takes the field on offense after your team just got broken, like what we just saw with Madison.
Yeah, and Noah Chunmoy finishing that off for the Radicals. How do those O-Prime units respond? Do they wilt in the face of pressure, or do they rise to the occasion and get the job done? That's going to be something to monitor. And we also talked about a key being consistency. The O-lines for both of these groups have struggled to find a rhythm or identity. And we also have struggled to see Madison play a full 4 quarters. So both of these teams want to find a way to do that.
Gordon Larson to Colin Berry for the wind chill hold. It was Will Brandt's cross-field shot that opened everything up.
That's the kind of vision we were talking about in the pregame show. that Brant has and the space he's able to unlock on the field. And good to see Colin Berry getting involved there. You know, I think he's playing a little more O in the absence of Matt Rader tonight.
Yeah, no Matt Rader for the wind chill tonight. And Colin Berry, who had been playing really well defensively, not just as a block hunter, but as a guy that could help move the disc and create some offense after a turn. Clearly a versatile veteran for this Minnesota squad. Good hustle from Blake Crapful getting down there, blocking the first throw, which was going to head Marcus's direction. Here's Gutowski out of the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. Back to Shuey and over to Vordick. Last week for 2.5 quarters, Ian, the Madison offense was pretty darn steady against Chicago. And we talked to Jake Spiro, the coach of Madison, and he said, look, our offense did enough to win that game. He said it was the defense that did not have their normal productive day. I think Chicago's offense had a lot to do with that as well.
Yeah, that was an entertaining game to watch and somewhat indicative of the level that the Union can reach when a lot of their pieces are there.
Second break opportunity here for the wind chill. Looking for Grindy on the swing. And an errant throw from Madison's Jack Nelson. May not be the best time, but happy birthday to Jack Nelson as he celebrates his 28th here tonight. Vandy Mortel has been a quarterback of this wind chill D-line. He was phenomenal at championship weekend last year in a bobble from Burnett, but he hangs on. A whistle and a Minnesota timeout with a stall count rising on Burnett. And that's the type of turnover. Look, you could call it unforced. You could also give the wind chill defense credit and say they played really good suffocating defense downfield, and Madison had to take a lot of short throws and didn't have a ton of options. But that's the type of turnover the Madison O-line cannot afford against a championship caliber team like this.
Yeah, and it's also the type of turnover that the Minnesota wind chill defense is designed and schematically orchestrated to produce, right? They like having those big aggressive marks that force more throws out wide and challenge players to complete throws outside of the middle of the field and just flatten the angles that everybody can attack.
A couple of good shots of some experienced, savvy assistant coaches. We saw Tim DeBile, who for a long time was the head coach here in Madison. He's now helping to lead the D-line, and Max Longchamp. You know, Ben Feldman loves to give Max a ton of credit for all the strategic success Minnesota has created. Double team comes on Brant. Reset to Krennic, and now a swing for Bevon. Gainer for Savell Fernandez. And that's a block on the doorstep.
Yeah, I didn't see the separation there warranting pulling the trigger there. I know Paul Krennic is a fast guy and a good target, but
Mitchell McCarthy was right there with him. Read the play well. This is a Madison O point. We've already had one timeout. We're still in the first quarter. Does Jake Spiro want to use his second timeout?
That is unbelievable stuff from Bevon. You could tell the Madison receiver just kind of stopped running through. Fatigue was present, but Bevon wasn't giving up.
Third turn of the point, though, goes back to Madison as Robert gets his hand in the passing lane. Here's McCarthy, who got the first block. Ripping it long. Marks wasn't really expecting it. And this marathon point, which is over 3 minutes long already, continues.
I couldn't really tell what the offensive structure was for Madison on the turn there.
How much is fatigue a factor? I know we're in the first quarter here, but this is a long point.
Oh, 100%. You see it. The guys are already just jogging down the field here.
Madison's defense is nowhere to be seen on the third try. It's Bighorns in the end zone for the second time tonight. And it's a wind chill break.
I mean, that was a gift right there. And then Leapforth just not fully running through and attacking the disc. Easy for us to say up here in the booth after we haven't been sprinting back and forth, but that's kind of one of those fundamental things of Ultimate. No matter what level you're playing at, like, run through with both hands and attack as far out in front as you can.
Klain to Vinoka for the score. It's been a familiar combination in wind chill history. Josh Klain currently 8th all-time in UFA history in assists, and yikes, that was nearly another careless turn. Shuey keeps it alive and gains yards downfield to Kelly, and then Marcus launches a moon ball. Vordic being chased by a crowd. It's a battle in the end zone, and it's bopped up in the air and smacked to the ground by DeClercq.
It looked like it went off. Oh,
Huck the other way, looking for Lacey, and it's Kai DiLorenzo there, and that's incomplete. We know Kai Marcus can make that throw, Ian, but either he rushed it or he just didn't release it the way he wanted, because it was
and the other thing
forever.
Yeah, and the other thing to keep in mind is, you know, this is game 5, 6 of the regular season for the Radicals, and there are some throwers who are still getting used to the new disc and how it flies and deals with wind. I know we mentioned that there weren't a ton of atmospheric conditions, but when you're hucking in the direction that Marcus was hucking, that far end zone on the left side of your screen does become a little bit tricky with some wind tunnels coming in off the far corner.
Marcus double team, gets it back to Shuey. And here's Vordic. Under 2 minutes to play in the first. Again, if you joined us late, Radicals began the game with a break and really should have had a second straight break. They could have been up 2-0 after pulling to start the game. Crossfield floater finds Shuey. Marcus to Gutowski.
That was a tiny window in between Gutowski's mark and potentially poaching Cam Lacey, but Gutowski's asking, come on, who can cover me? Who's going to step up and stop me?
He scored 2 of the 3 Madison goals. Another topsy-turvy point.
Yeah, I thought this went off Vordic's hands first. He's right there, he's all alone, and he just doinked it. I see the contact from Suflo, but that was after he had already doinked it. You see anything differently?
No, I saw it the same way you did. So Gutowski now with his 20th and 22nd, 23rd goals of the season. Radicals back within 1. Klain initiates from the pylon and gets it to Brandt in his own end zone. Veteran Radical defender Josh Wilson on the mark there. Here's Savel Fernandez. And we were talking before the game with Ben Feldman about end of quarter situations.
A little miscommunication there.
Deep shot going for Barry, and he stumbled, but he makes the catch. He's not in. Barry resets for Larson and then gets it right back to double the wind chill lead, 5-3.
So this Madison defense earlier on in the point had done a really good job of kind of suffocating and forcing and collapsing the wind chill attack, but Greg Cousins, the one who threw the huck there was a miscommunication, a kind of unspoken switch that didn't get completed between two Madison defenders, and that opened up the skinny inside flat lane to Cousins, and when he caught that disc, he had absolutely no mark on him. You give anybody all the time and space in the world, that's the ideal recipe for setting them up for success on a nice deep shot.
Wind chill now 1 for 2 on their hucks. James Pollard, maybe the biggest guy on the wind chill D-line for this end of quarter situation. A fantastic pull, which has become the norm for this Minnesota squad, whether it's Pollard or Lacey or whoever. Less than 30 seconds for Madison's offense. Radicals trailing by 2. Madison will receive to start the second quarter. Could they have a chance to tie? Grindy with 4 seconds. Vordic fires it to the end zone. Looking for Gutowski. Oh, it's off his hands and caught by his teammate. Ted Shuey. Johnny on the spot. Radicals with a buzzer beater, back within 1. Just how they drew it up.
I mean, look at this. Gutowski in between the two defensive additions. I don't think he backed it, but hey, Madison will take it.
Throw like a pro with a new Pro Ultimate Frisbee. Created with input from the sport's premier passers, the Pro Frisbee is specially designed to fly through the wind and maintain its edge. Experience the official Frisbee of the UFA and get yours at shopufa.com today.
Wild finish to the first quarter. Ted Shuey off the deflection from Anthony Gutowski. And the Radicals get back within 1, and they'll receive to start the second here at Breeze Stevens Field, where every Radicals game is a festival. I mean, it's just an awesome atmosphere here on this Friday night, as it always is for Madison home games here on the Isthmus.
Always excited when get to come here for Friday Night Frisbee Game of the Week, Championship Weekend. This is one of the best atmospheres in the entire association, and hat tip to Tim DeBile, the rest of the ownership group, and all they've done to really build up the community around these games.
So, look, to compete with a championship team like Minnesota, it helps to get a little lucky. And the end of that first quarter goes Madison's way. They have the disc here. Can they back it up and hold and tie this game up and prevent the O-Prime line from having to come onto the field? They're going to start from the brick because the pull sailed out the back.
split stack here from the Madison offense to start.
Marcus picked up by Krapfel. It's Gutowski guarded by Hansen. No Justin Burnett on the field for this particular D point. Little push pass from Kai Marcus to Kai DiLorenzo, and now Kelson Alexander. And he's fouled. Ian Kelson's had quite the transformation. He was a D-line guy in the early Radicals years, took some time off, and he's been so critical to this O-line's efficiency as just a rock of a disc mover through the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, it's been really cool to watch. I remember playing with him back in 2013 on the Team USA Under-23 team, and that D-line handler position was kind of what he was known for and where he slotted in.
How about that throw from Kai Marcus? A slippery scuba to the back corner of the end zone for Shuey. 2 straight goals for Shuey, and we're tied 5-all.
Yeah, that's some confidence for the Radicals, but I like the way you phrased it. It's been a nice transformation and growth for Alexander to see him absorbing more offensive responsibility, being the guy that Spyro trusts to, hey, I need someone who can be a facilitator and disc mover and a consistent presence on the offense. It's been really cool to see, and it's really, frankly, a presence that this Radicals group needs.
In front of these home fans, the Madison Radicals have won their last 8 UFA home games here at Breese Stevens Field. They're trying to snap Minnesota's long road winning streak here tonight. The Wind Chill have won their last 11 games outside of the Twin Cities. That includes 9 regular season road games. And of course, the games at championship weekend last year in Salt Lake City when they upset both the DC Breeze and the Carolina Flyers. Will Brandt was named championship weekend MVP. Here's Klain, veteran handler, working with Brandt into the red zone. Vanoka gets free. Pretty good red zone defense here from Madison. Vanoka's throw sails to the right spot. Josh Klain just floated toward the back corner as well. And it's the first goal of the night for Klain.
It still looks like this Wind Chill offense is kind of struggling in transition, right? You know, they've got their scripted off the centering pole, this is what we're going to do. A strike cut from the handler, someone downfield comes under on the break side, we break the mark. And then when they get in the red zone, they're just having trouble finding their shape. It looks like there's a little confusion over, okay, are you going to initiate? Am I going to initiate? I'm sure in their minds, they're like, hey, we know what the play is, but when I'm seeing it in practice here so far through these first couple points, that seems like an area where they could clean up or display a little more comfort.
First time tonight, Minnesota pulls it to the sideline and forces Madison to face the double team immediately. That's a nice job by Shuey to get it out of trouble with the stall count rising.
Got to get it back off that line quickly.
This could open things up. Ronabout reset for Marcus. And now Shuey wide open. Minnesota trying to recover defensively.
How is that missed pick call right there? Cam Lacey got kind of run through the stack and no call went up.
Shuey around the foot block attempt from DeClerc. Roundabout for Gutowski. And James Pollard deflects it. And it's to the ground.
Yeah, tough to get anything past Pollard. A leading throw in that angle is also a really tough release. I'm not 100% sold on that choice.
Second red zone turnover so far for Madison. How can this Radicals O-line put up any defensive resistance? Pollard to DeClerc. Kelly there on the mark. Back to Vandy Mortel. 4 minutes gone here in the second quarter as DeClerc rips it high, and the wind is going to help carry it out the back. Missed opportunity for Minnesota.
That's surprising. DeClerc, the veteran presence, who's been there. He knows how to play at Bree Stevens. He knows that end zone is always tricky. He knows how valuable it is to convert breaks. Just a little surprised to see that decision and mix execution on his part.
Marcus forced to just launch it deep, and that's a block for Cam Lacey because he completely shut down the first cutter coming under Kai DiLorenzo, and that left Kai Marcus with no other options but to basically punt it deep. I mean, we really could credit Cam Lacey with the turnover created there. And my goodness, a drop from Burnett. He almost dropped one earlier. This will go down as a drop for the former Hustle star. Third chance of this possession, and they're going to need a fourth if they're going to score. Vandy Mortel intercepts. Kyle Suflo, right as the whistle blew, and he launched a dime of a backhand, but Ben Feldman called the timeout. And welcome to the UFA, Kyle. Young standout U24 USA guy who plays for tiny McAllister College in St. Paul. Just had this gorgeous huck taken away by the head coach.
Welcome to life on the D-line, huh?
Made his UFA debut last week. Suflo did 1 goal, 1 assist, and a couple of blocks in the 12 points he played in Minnesota's win over Pittsburgh. This point began, Ian, with 9:48 on the second quarter clock. So over 3 minutes have elapsed. We've seen 5 turnovers so far. Here's the third break chance of the point for the wind chill. Brandt, Savell Fernandez, and Klain with Vinoka, Krennic, Larson, and Cousins. And wow, Brandt just threw it to nobody. And this is basically a gift for the Radicals. That's unbelievable for that to happen out of a timeout. 6-all.
Third turn of the night for Brandt.
We need to see this replay and try to figure out how this happened.
So there's the Pollard block earlier in the point. Here's DeClerc. There's no doubt that Krappel had separation, but the execution just wasn't there. And then Marcus absolutely has to punt it rather than turn it over near his own end zone. Burnett drops it. The swing for Alexander catches some wind. And Brandt is clearly expecting someone to come back into that space. I mean, that wasn't a high stall prayer to nobody. He clearly anticipated either his primary or a secondary reset to be filling that pattern.
So that was a very circuitous hold for the Madison O-line.
Yeah, you don't say.
6-all with just under 6.5 minutes to play in this first half. Vinoka double teamed, scoobers over it to a wide open Savell Fernandez. Interesting that after that last play, Brandt is now working downfield. Other guys taking charge as the handlers. A touch for Larson. Brandt lefties it for Krennic. And Vinoka into the end zone. It's Gordon Larson.
Nice calm response there from Minnesota. We've been zeroing in on how the O-Prime group is going to respond. And I know technically that last point was a hold for Madison, but the O-line personnel had subbed on for Minnesota after the timeout, and it looked like this group was just kind of short memory, get back out there. Let's give Will a breather. He does a good job maintaining space, gets one touch in the red zone, and the group is under control.
Bevon's big night continues. He's got 2 goals and 2 assists along with 1 block. His 203 total yards, second most of anybody in the game. Gordon Larson has right around 250 so far. Pull lands in bounds, and Madison starts from the goal line and swings it for Marcus. This is Grindy. Kelly rips it. Gutowski accelerating into the end zone. What a shot from Jack Kelly.
You can see what Gumby's saying. You can't guard me. You can't guard me. I mean, the more that Madison can set up offensive strings like this, I mean, this looks like a well-oiled machine. Yeah, he's letting Justin Burnett know he wants some more.
We saw Justin Burnett having some yapping battles with his old teammate Hayden Austin-Knapp a couple weeks ago at TCO Stadium. Burnett, guy that's willing to chirp on the field. Gutowski clearly plays with his emotions on his sleeve too. 7-all, under 5 to play in the first half. Brandt from the sideline. Tight window connection with Leo Savell Fernandez, and then right back to Brandt.
Yeah, roller pull, but no double team to start there.
Saw that work for the Salt Lake Shred late against the Oakland Spiders last week in a crazy fourth quarter comeback that became an overtime win that lifted the Shred into first place in the West. Nice little high release for Larson, and then he floats it carelessly toward Klain, and it's Stark flying in for the interception.
How about this pace from Madison on the counterattack too?
Can they convert and take the lead for the first time since it was 1-0?
Is Spyro gonna burn one here? They do have one left.
He shouldn't have to with how things are cooking. Not in yet, but they're in now. And it's Mitchell McCarthy that gives the Radicals the 8-7 lead.
That's a great jersey right there. The 8th defender in the stands. And wow. I mean, that break has to do wonders for the D-line offense's confidence, and it has to put a massive smile on Tim DeBile's face. I mean, that's the group that he's dialed in on working with since stepping back from head coaching duties, and it's just been a matter of finding the right combinations to put out there and finding a way to get that group to be consistent. And now here's another moment where we get a look at an O-Prime situation for Minnesota, and that pull a little tough to handle off the bat.
And not a great pull receive. Lets Madison's defense get set. Greeting Vandy Mortel.
Yeah, he's stranded. Wow, I can't
Vandy
believe
Mortel floats it into a crowd, and it's saved by Bergmeyer. Working with Burnett. Justin finds Sam Berglund wide open. First game for Sam Berglund in a long time. Battling back from multiple injuries, and the O-Prime line able to punch it in with Bergmeyer doing a whole lot of the work. That was a floater throw that was up for grabs in the middle of the field early in that point.
I mean, Vandy Mortel had to release that one at 6 or 6.5. That was awfully close to being a stall, I thought. It was almost like his support auxiliary reset handlers kind of started to push up field before or without knowing exactly what the reset plan was. You know, no one was able to make that slash cut behind or across the front in the strike motion. Yeah, he's chuckling on the sideline now, but it was tense a moment ago.
It ultimately went in the stat sheet as a 35-yard gainer. Not a huck. Needs to be 40 yards or more to be a huck. But still a nice completion. Minnesota officially just 1 for 3 on their hucks so far tonight. Radicals O-line has had its ups and downs. Can they find their groove as this game gets to the business end? That's not going to work. Roundabout, bad throw.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think Hansen got a piece of that. I think that was just a turf, no?
That's what it looked like. Minnesota's out of timeout, so this is going to be the Wind-Chill D-line working. And a shot to the end zone to a wide open target. Blake Crackful has the Wind-Chill break. And there are some Wind-Chill fans that made the trip. Wow. Welcome back, Sam Berglund, huh?
Yeah.
What a shot.
Yeah, what a weapon for Ben Feldman, Max Longchamp, and Carlos Lopez to have.
The journey for Berglund, he got hurt early last season with a wrist injury. Played in a game late in the year, tweaked his hamstring. Was close to being ready for championship weekend, but he didn't play. He was there, but he didn't play. And then coming into the start of this season, right before the opener, he had an adductor ab strain. So it's been one thing after another for Berglund, but you know, Ben Feldman really feels that having him on the D-line with Vandy Mortel gives them more disc movers. And you can see it right there.
I was going to say, Exhibit A, that cross-field rip.
So we're under 2 minutes now. Radicals, oh goodness. Savel Fernandez just canceled the flick attempt, and we've got another great break opportunity for Bergmeyer in Minnesota. They've lost a few yards, but Bergmeyer blades it, which ends up working out. Bevon, another score. The hammer to the back corner. 10-8 Wind-Chill. That's an O-Prime situation that did not work out well for the Radicals.
I mean, that's just you got to be a little more active and intentional with your throws. You got to be able to step out and make your release point challenging. And kudos to Savel Fernandez for getting the block that way and having an active mark, but also salute to the Minnesota Wind-Chill after the turnover, the spacing that opened up that opportunity for Vinoka. You had Pollard back in one corner, and everyone was just kind of making their own space and keeping space for others. Really impressed with that.
It was Ian McCoskey, who was a late activation for the game tonight, that got hand blocked on the doorstep. He was with the Wind-Chill the last couple of years. We go under a minute in this first half. Radicals took the 8-7 lead, and since then, 3 straight scores for Minnesota. Shuey has no one behind him. And Gutowski attacks the space toward the wind chill bench area. Vordic. And we get a whistle, and it's a pick. So this is going to stop the clock. And I think Jake Spiro's taking a timeout as well. Definitely saw the official signal a pick, but perhaps he was mistaken, because Spiro using a second timeout. This is an interesting situation, Ian, because if you're Madison, you definitely need to score, but you also would love to score with fewer than 5 seconds left if you can.
Right. I think if you had a more veteran-heavy, confident, experienced O-line, you might be trying to play that let's game the clock game. I think this is a group that's just like,
let's punch it in.
Let's punch it in as soon as or however we can. I could be wrong. We couldn't hear the audio there, but that's my take.
DeClercq is going to be on Shuey on the mark. Alexander's open in the backfield with his defender poaching into the lane, and they'll swing it to Kelson. Reset for Marcus. Marcus pushed off. Wave off the score. It's an offensive foul against the Radicals. Clock stops with 22 seconds left. That's definitely an offensive foul.
Little taunt there. Trying to put the disc on Krapfel's forehead.
High stall floater, and it's caught by DiLorenzo. Kai to Kai. An important score for the Radicals. Did they leave too much time? We'll find out.
Wow. I mean, if you're Minnesota, you're happy that that's how Madison scored. Of course, you don't want your opponent to score, but hey, if that's what was required, he had to throw that at stall 6. We did our jobs, and we'll take them resorting to that option 9 times out of 10.
It's interesting. You look at the breaks. Minnesota's got 4 in 10 tries. Madison's got 2 in 3 tries. And their buzzer beater at the end of the first has them within 1 here. Who will win this end of quarter scenario? Krennic gets it back from Klain to the middle. Bevon across midfield. The clock malfunction in the stadium, but that's a shot to the end zone, and James Pollard, like he's all alone, takes charge and scores at the buzzer.
That was a crazy sequence. The stadium clock was stuck on 9 for about 5 seconds. Then it snapped back to reality at 3 seconds. That's when the throw went up, and then nobody thought to get in front of James Pollard. I don't know if the read on the disc was, hey, I'm seeing all this wind. I'm expecting it to go deeper in the end zone, but nobody had a body in front of him. They all had bodies behind Pollard, but nobody positioned in front of him.
Klain gets the assist at the buzzer, and that's a tough break for the Radicals as the half comes to a close. So clearly an interesting first half. Like, it wasn't a total disaster for the Radicals. There were things to like, and there were also some disastrous moments, both with the disc and defensively there at the end.
I mean, this is kind of representative of what we've seen from this Radicals team this year. We've seen those, I guess, I don't know if I want to call them flashes of brilliance, but really nice moments, but we've also seen them leave key opportunities on the table and make things too easy for their opponents.
Down in the field, our Grace Bulow standing by with wind chill captain Brian Vinoka.
Bevan, incredible game so far from you, but your O-line is looking a little bit lackluster. Why do you think that is?
Madison's doing a really good job. They're jumping into the lanes when it's getting to about stall 4 or 5, and they're really peeling off hard. And for us, it's just trying to find the right spots and find the open guy. I think we're going to have to do a little bit better job of cutting through some of those poaches and brackets. And again, we'll probably try and come out in a little bit more spread look here in the second half.
Do you think some of your players are still having trouble handling the new disc?
I mean, this is like almost midway through the season for us. So I mean, I don't think there's anything new about the disc that's like really causing anybody any issues out there today. Again, I think it's just a little bit of swirly wind like you normally get here at Breeze Stevens, and we just need to hit people in the chest.
Perfect, love it. Thank you so much, Bevan. Back to the booth.
Great stuff, Grace. Thanks so much. Minnesota 11 scores and 9 turns in that first half. Madison had 9 scores and 11 turns. When we come back, we'll look ahead to the rest of the weekend in the UFA. Halftime with a wind chill by 2. It's now time to crack open a Friday six-pack presented by Pabst Light as we discuss 6 big storylines in the UFA this week. Number 1, Saturday afternoon Frisbee in Montreal. It's a battle between 2 teams that enter the weekend in playoff position in the East Division. Boston still undefeated, and Montreal has played really well at home. The Royale lost to the Glory in Boston a couple times early in the season, but Montreal's been a different team at their home stadium, and the Boston Glory beginning a 2-game weekend north of the border. It starts Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m., a rare Saturday matinee on WatchUFA.tv. Number 2, staying in the East, the UFA Game of the Week, DC and New York. On the one hand, the Empire have played 7 of their 8 games on the road so far, and they currently sit just half a game out of the last playoff spot. With 4 home games left, New York could absolutely rally and rise back up in the standings and look like a championship contender. On the other hand, there's also a world where things could unravel really quickly for the Empire. Injuries mounting, frustration building up, the rival DC Breeze finding their top form, and historically, every one of these games carries a lot of weight. If DC can replicate its performance from last week when they rolled the Empire late to pull away and win by 8, then suddenly New York would be 3-6, and it feel like the wheels are falling off as they head down the stretch. It's a fascinating pivot point in the story of the 2025 Empire. 7 p.m. Saturday night, UFA Game of the Week exclusively on WatchUFA.tv. Number 3, the duel for the Commonwealth Cup in the Steel City. Pittsburgh hosting Philadelphia. And one of these teams is going to get a desperately needed victory. The Phoenix, after all, started 3-0, but now are 3-4. The Thunderbirds started 2-0, but now are 2-4. So both these teams riding 4-game losing streaks, badly needing a win to get back on track. Phoenix still very much in the East Division playoff race, remember, but this is an absolute must-win for Philly. 6 p.m. start Saturday night from Highmark Stadium. Number 4, the undefeated Austin Soul, 6-0 after their thrilling pair of comeback wins at LA and San Diego last week. They look to stay perfect against a team they have always handled, the Houston Havoc. Can the Soul stay steady, take care of business, and prove to 7-0? If they get this win, they'll head to Atlanta in a couple of weeks with an unblemished record that would make for quite a Friday night Frisbee spectacle on June 27th in the ATL. This week, though, it's an 8 Eastern, 7 Central first pull for the Havoc and the Soul on Saturday night. Good chance to get a glimpse of the Soul if you haven't watched them a ton yet this year. There's a reason they're 6-0. Their defense has been phenomenal. Number 5, the undefeated Chicago Union. They're 3-0 after a home win over Madison last Sunday. They're heading to face Indianapolis, a team that has only beaten Detroit. And I bring this game up because the interesting dynamic right now for the unbeaten Union is that this is their last week of the regular season where they only have 1 game. Chicago has 8 games scheduled
for the final 5 weeks of the season, and they're off one of those weekends. So they got 4 doubleheaders in 5 weeks to close out the year. It's a lot of ultimate in a short time. We know this team has a ton of talent. How will they handle that scheduling barrage that's coming up starting next week? On paper, Chicago could absolutely run the table and go 12-0. They could be the #1 favorite in the league heading into the playoffs. But first, they got to take care of business at Indy in week 8. And number 6, for the second straight week, we got one Sunday game, and it's a really good one. Boston and Toronto in Ontario. Varsity Stadium, the site, 6 p.m. Sunday evening. Another absolutely huge game for the Rush, who have very little margin for error with their challenging schedule that they've got coming up. I do think the Rush have a great chance to win their 3rd straight and get Boston. Think about the friendly circumstances, glory being on the second day of a back-to-back. Toronto finding its top form. They played really well in the second half against Montreal last week. This game, like all 11 games in the Ultimate Frisbee Association this weekend, can be watched on watchufa.tv. That is this week's Friday Night Six-Pack, presented by Pabst Light, America's quality light beer. Halftime here at Breeze Stevens Field with a wind chill leading 11-9. 4 breaks and 10 opportunities for the chill. 2 breaks and 3 chances for Madison. And Minnesota, after a couple shaky possessions at the start, have settled in offensively. 7 of 10 of their O-line conversions. The Hucks are not working, but they have been grinding their way down the field and for the most part taking care of business in the red zone, 80%. They'd like to be a little bit better, but that's not too bad. 9 turnovers in the half for Minnesota, 11 for Madison. Right now we got Grace Bulow down on the field standing by with Madison handler Kai Marcus. Grace.
Hi. Kai, you guys seem to panic a little bit in the red zone. Why is that?
I think Minnesota's defense is really in our shorts, and we don't really play against that kind of defense. You know, Radicals have really smart, poachy defense, and so I think it takes us a while to get used to it. Just someone right on your back every time you're catching the disc.
Okay. You guys also seem to have a pretty low completion percentage, just statistically. Why do you think that is?
I think we're a pretty young team. I think we have a very high ceiling, and we have, you know, it's very easy to take risky throws and think we can complete them, because we all have completed them in the past, but it's really hard to balance that with the, you know, low percentage that those throws afford. So
all right, quick last question. Do you think you guys are a second half team?
I do in this game. Here we go.
All right. Ooh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Grace. Well, when Kyle Marcus was in college, he was known for his risky throws. See the trees at the top of the screen? There's certainly some breeze here at Breeze. But look, the wind chill getting the buzzer beater at the end of the first half to take the 2-score lead. This is one of just many games that you should be tuning in for on WatchUFA.tv this weekend. Tomorrow night in New York, it feels like it could be the end of the empire if New York can't take care of business at home against the DC team that they just lost to last Friday night in our nation's capital. And of course, we'll have the Empire on Friday Night Frisbee next weekend as they host Toronto, the Rising Rush, the Rush reboot with all their international talent. Toronto, of course, first has the Boston Glory on Sunday evening. Boston's at Montreal tomorrow at 1, and then at Toronto Sunday at 6. So they'll have a good 24 hours, after the Montreal game before they start warming up for the Toronto game. That's the place everybody wants to be, the ice cream truck. They have super creative and delicious flavors. Maybe that's where Ian Toner is right now, who knows? We got the Radicals pulling to begin this third quarter, and Minnesota, after a slow start, as I mentioned in the first half, where Will Brandt had 2 turnovers in the first 2 minutes, and the Radicals nearly had a 2-0 lead, if not for a Pierre and Robert drop on the goal line. Here's Josh Klain looking for Brandt deep. Brandt can't make the play with Robert right there for Madison. Cool to see Kevin Pettit-Scantling, longtime Madison Radicals defensive superstar, beyond the barrier there with the fans. There's KPS looking on. Can the Radicals D-line march the full 80? We saw Jake Spiro take the timeout 32 seconds into the first quarter. A little different here in the second half, though. Stark launching it deep, and it's denied by Gordon Larson. Joe Liebfort thought he was fouled, but that was some pretty good defense from where I sit. Brandt the other way to Klain. He's got Vinoka going. He'll launch again. Luke Marks defensing, and it's Bevon ripping it down for Minnesota. What can he not do? Vinoka, 35 years old, he'll be 36 in November, and he still might be the best conditioned athlete on his team. So it's a missed opportunity for the Madison Radicals D-line. And 84 seconds into the third quarter, Vinoka continues his spectacular night. He is now a game-high +7, 4 goals, 2 assists, 1 block, no turns. And Josh Klain, 1 deep shot to Brandt that did not work out. Another deep shot ripped down by Bevon. Justin Burnett flying underneath, but it's going to be a foul because Gutowski caught the disc and then Burnett knocked it out of his hands. So that'll cost Burnett 10 yards. This is Vordic. High throw pulled in by Kelly. Excuse me, that's Jack Nelson, not Jack Kelly. I apologize, I may have called him Jack Kelly earlier tonight. There was another Jack on the O-line who was Jack Kelly from Madison in very recent years. But Nelson, on his 28th birthday, gets it to Marcus, who shoots it for Gutowski. It's floating. Gutowski! Incomplete. Incredible acceleration even to get a hand on it. I think Burnett gave him a little dap for the effort, but It's Minnesota's disc, and they'll have to move back 10 yards. Traveling violation called on Burnett. So he's got a double team in his grill, and he floats it near the sideline, and it's inbounds for Bergmeyer. And Madison calling for another travel, and they're going to get the call. The deep shot is going up. If it's a turnover, it'll be Madison's disc, I think, and it will be. Yeah, they were going to call a travel if it was complete, but Thomas Shope in his first game of the season could not bring it in. Thomas Shope, fresh off a college championship, capping his freshman year at Carleton. He's won a lot for a young guy, a UFA championship at 18 years old, and then a college champion at 19. What's next? Nelson, back to Marcus. Timeout, Madison. So this is a Radicals 0 point that started with 10:36 on the clock. And Jake Spiro burns the timeout pretty early in the half for the second straight half. And it's an important possession, Ian, with the Radicals down by 3 and goals not coming all that easily or smoothly for the O-line right now.
I don't want to call it do or die, but it just feels like a critical juncture in this game. This is kind of like that tipping point moment where Minnesota could really step on the gas and separate and differentiate for good for the rest of the game, or Madison can find a way to fight back and keep this a legitimate contested match.
So it's interesting, the O-line was on the field, and now basically the O-prime line comes on, led by the veteran Josh Wilson, known as J-Dub. Working with McCoskey. Chun Moy switches the angle for Carrico. Sometimes the O-prime line comes on and makes it look really easy, like Madison's group did right there.
That's exactly what the doctor ordered for Spiro, DeBile and company, and I want to see them use a little momentum here, manufacture some for themselves, coming out of that emphatic response.
Early in the point, Burnett got his hand on the Gutowski under. And then this would have been the highlight of the year if he could have hauled it in. They called a travel on Bergmeyer, and it would have come back if Shope could have made this catch, but he bobbled it. That'll go as a drop, I think. And at the end of the point, it's McCoskey to McCarthy. So about 3 minutes off the clock. Madison does hold. And an excellent pull for the Radicals, forcing Brandt to pick it up deep in the corner. And he centers to his college teammate, Gordon Larson. They won a D3 national championship last year at St. Olaf. Vinoka to Klein, cross midfield.
Been a couple moments tonight where Vinoka has just found that soft spot in the next level, scoobering over a double team like he did right there.
Yeah, he's in the zone right now, having a really spectacular night. Brandt, on the other hand, not so much.
You could see the window he was thinking about, and I know he's hit those outside in throws to the inside out lane, but just a little casual on the step back and the release.
And if you're Jake Spiro, you don't want to go and use your second and final timeout with 6.5 minutes to go in the third. Thankfully, you do have Gutowski on the field, but Gordon Larson able to get the job done and pick up his college teammate after the turn at the other end. That's a disc that, you know, it's a 50-50, but Madison needs Gutowski to make that play.
Well, no question about it. And
Klein looking, takes the reset for Vandy Mortel. And we get a bump on Wilson on the mark. Klein runs it down. It's been interesting to watch Josh Klein evolve as a player too, Ian. I mean, he was a bit of a gunslinger in the past, and Will Brandt does finish this possession with a goal. And we've seen Klein take some deep shots, but he has harnessed his decision-making for the better of the wind chill and has become a pretty darn solid possession handler who's capable of taking the deep shot.
Aging just like a fine wine, you might say. But in reality, I think that value really becomes more noticeable as we get another look at this unbelievable defensive effort from Larson, taking the disc away from Gutowski. I think Klein's value becomes even more noticeable in adverse conditions because, yes, you can certainly rely on him now at this age to make the smarter decision and not take as many risky shots, but he can also cut through the wind and the wet. Unlike many other throwers in this league, his power, his torque, his ability to still stretch the field when lots of other throwers are limited is something that's really special. Tonight, not necessarily testing the skill sets in that way, but we saw it at championship weekend last year. We saw it in the wet in the home games last year for Minnesota.
You may think that Josh Klein's Frisbee journey started at Hopkins High School in the Twin Cities, where he was part of an undefeated team as a high school junior, but no, his Frisbee journey actually started in Wisconsin at summer camp in Webster, Wisconsin, and Grindy flubs it to the ground, and Burnett, I think he just gave it right back. Yeah, he did. That's a poor release from Burnett. He had Hansen, just did not put the air under it. So the teams trade quick turns on this important point for the Radicals offense, trailing 13-10. Vordick doubled by Burnett. Back to Shuey. And here's Alexander. Marcus working in the stack right now, trying to get free, struggling to do so. Pretty good downfield defense from Matt Johnson. Here's Nelson. Shuey with a bullet for Grindy, sure-handed on that catch. Marcus finally gets a touch, and Johnson stumbles, and certainly some contact, but both guys play through it, and what a catch. Alexander just saved Kai's behind right there. Low laser, and he grabbed on a knee with one hand. Under 4 to play in the third. And a layout block in the backfield. Matthew Johnson has been hunting all point, and he gets the D on Alexander. Lacey picks up, floats it, looking for Bergmeyer, and it's snatched away by Kelson Alexander. Errant throw from Cameron Lacey. Minnesota's had a couple of chances to seize control tonight, and they haven't fully done it. They're leaving the door open, and Madison is shutting it on themselves.
I loved the attempt,
timeout Winchell,
from Shuey to kind of implore his fellow teammates before that throw, that turn 2 throws later, pushing his hands down, saying, hey guys, let's take a breath, let's find our structure. But the group just unable to do it. It's surprising to me how many throwing errors we're seeing. I know there's a little bit of wind, but hey, it's not like these guys haven't played in that before. You just got to zip it into your target's chest.
Well, if the Minnesota wind chill can prevail tonight, not only will they improve to 5-1 on the season and stay within 1 game of first place Chicago in the loss column, But for this Wind Chill franchise, which was founded back in 2014, tonight would be their 100th win in franchise history. They would be the 6th team in UFA history to reach 100 wins. I didn't prep you for this. Do you want to guess the other 5?
Sure. The New York Empire.
That's one.
How much time? We got live action resuming.
No, we got all the time in the world. Folks at home can think about it too.
What other franchises have 100 wins? Okay, I'm going to think about this.
Minnesota trying to join that fraternity.
Madison definitely has 100 wins.
That's one.
So we're up to 2 now.
You got 2 of the 5. McLean gets it to Vandy Mortel, who finds Brandt. Double team comes. Brandt can go over the top. He's got multiple targets, and I'm not sure that's the guy to double team in the sideline. That's working right into Minnesota's comfort zone. Brandt to Larson, the St. Olaf connection, and the Wind Chill have their largest lead of the night.
Do the Toronto Rush have 100 wins?
That's correct.
That's 3. Okay, we're 3 for 5 so far. We're 3 for 3. Still got 2 to go.
Would you like a hint?
No. Trying to think about if the Spiders franchise between San Jose and Oakland. I'm going to say the Spiders.
That is incorrect. Would you like a hint?
Sure.
The 2 teams you haven't named yet were at championship weekend last year.
The DC Breeze.
Correct.
And the Carolina Flyers.
Flyers got their 100th win last Saturday night against Atlanta.
Should have known.
Minnesota.
I would have gotten there. I feel like I would have gotten there.
Could be the 6th team with 100 wins. Radicals are at 121, and they're not getting closer to 122 with plays like that. Hansen, the D and the dime, Dylan DeClerc, the score, and the wheels are falling off right now for the Radicals offense. 15-10.
That's a tough one. It kind of seemed like Alexander was a little flustered trying to catch the pull. It kind of came in a little hotter than he expected. And as he bobbled it, he wasn't totally set on his throwing motion for the centering throw, and just kind of off target. Gift there for the Wind Chill D-line.
3 straight scores. They have outscored Madison 4-1 so far here in the 3rd. 2-goal game at the half. Now a 5-goal lead for the visitors from the Twin Cities. It's getting ready to say Madison's just 5 wins behind New York for the most wins in franchise history. And today the Radicals playing their 6th game of the season. Tomorrow Minnesota's playing their 9th. So there's an opportunity for Madison to close the gap on the 3-time UFA champs. That throw sending Stark. Sam Stark. Oh no. Disc dipped on him at the last second. Both hands on it, but he could not stop rotation and hang on.
It's been that kind of night for Madison so far.
Been that kind of quarter for sure. Deep shot ripped the other way by Berglund, and it's Shope elevating. And then his throw to Cam Lacey for the Wind Chill score. Their 4th goal in a row. They've stretched the lead to 6.
I mean, I never had any doubt when it was Thomas Shope running that down. What an impact he had last year on that team's run to the title. How about the impact he had on Carleton's run to the title in the men's college division just a few weeks ago?
Caught the championship winning score.
I can't wait to see Nate DeMorgan playing some more points with the Shred.
He's been a guy that's been practicing with him a little bit. Hasn't made his debut yet, but certainly hope he does. And Ulti-World's College Player of the Year from Carleton, Declan Miller, was at Windshield practice earlier this week. Currently he's just a practice player. We'll see whether or not they roster him for any games down the stretch, but he's a talented guy. We saw that during his brief cup of coffee with the Seattle Cascades a few years back.
Yep.
And a tough season for the Scades. Some close losses early on, and they're not that far away from being in the mix, and yet it feels like they are a long way from contention for that third playoff spot in the West.
Yeah, I wonder if that group has the same hunger and energy that it did last year. You know, it's different when you're playing with the mantle of defending your title and not necessarily being the underdog, defying expectations.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point, Ian, but honestly, I think, you know, they had a lot of luck go their way last year, and just the luck in the close games hasn't bounced their way, and the bounces certainly aren't going Madison's way here in the third. Vordic, another drop, unforced error. Pollard sending it deep into the end zone for another Minnesota score. Brilliantly read by Kyle Suflo for his second UFA goal. The onslaught continues. Minnesota's really excited about this guy, Suflo.
Got a ton of athleticism, got a ton of energy, and man, I just this is just a tough showing from Madison. I know they're capable of being more competitive, but you know, Transitive Property of Sports, they're putting on a far more convincing victory. The Minnesota Wind Chill are putting on a far more convincing display against the Radicals than the Union did.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about. You know, obviously that early season game for Chicago in Minnesota, super windy, super ugly. Minnesota had a chance to break on the first point, couldn't do it, and then they almost didn't score in the whole first quarter. And they were down the whole game, but you know, they certainly showed against Atlanta that was a clunker and that was not who they were. And I mean, we talked about it in the pregame show and throughout the early portion of this game. You know, Madison is a team that is always in danger of giving up these runs of breaks just because their offense has not been reliable and consistent. Wilson to the end zone, and Burnett's bid comes up empty, and the crowd goes wild. That snaps a long Minnesota run, and Pierre and Robert has some friends in the stands. Snaps a 5-0 Minnesota run. First goal for the Madison Radicals since the 7:42 mark of the quarter. There are 5 seconds left.
Burnett did get a fingertip on it.
I thought he was going to get there.
Yeah. I mean, this is a great practice opportunity for both teams. End a quarter. How do you defend it? How do you execute to try and convert it?
James Pollard caught the buzzer beater at the end of the second quarter. Pollard racing downfield right now. Josh Klain rips it as time expires. In the end zone, it's deflected and batted down by Kai DiLorenzo. But a dominant third period for Minnesota. They outscore Madison 6-2 In the third, Radicals receive to start the fourth. Big hill to climb.
The Ultimate Frisbee Association is presented by Pabst Light, America's quality light beer. The UFA is also proud partners with Victory Insoles, engineered for peak performance, energy, and recovery. Truly, dedicated to enhancing lives through cannabis. And Two Town Cider House, high quality ingredients, no shortcuts, bringing hard cider back to the people.
What a night here in Madison. I mean, even though the Radicals struggled in that third quarter, you wouldn't know it from the enthusiasm of the crowd. It's an electric atmosphere, and they really do a tremendous job here at Breese Stevens Field. And this type of crowd, we expect this and more 10 weeks from tonight when championship weekend returns to the capital city of Ultimate.
And Madison's got a lot of work to do if they're going to be representing the Central here on their home turf.
There's interesting races, Ian, in all four divisions right now. Feel like the Central, there are probably two clear contenders for the championship weekend spot, Minnesota and Chicago. I think in every other division you could name at least three contenders.
I'm with you.
Certainly going to be another interesting weekend in the East. Boston has a couple tough road games at Montreal. Royale have not lost at home this year. And then Boston goes to Toronto the next day. DC's at New York. DC currently in second place. So, I mean, that division is so close and so tight. And Chun Moy trying to make a one-handed grab, can't pull it in. Chun Moy, former member of the New York Empire, played a few points in the 2021 championship game. Berglund looks deep and unable to connect with Krapfel, who is sandwiched well by Madison's defenders, and Gutowski avoids the big contact with Johnson. Same third huck, and those are tough to complete. And that Cameron Lacey flying in for the block.
That was incredible, and dare I say, an underrated block. I know this game is already in hand, but
deep shot going for Lacey the other way, not gonna get there.
What are we doing, fellas? We just running wind sprints here at this point.
Another opportunity for Madison on offense. Marcus with nowhere to go, finally gets a reset for Alexander. Downfield for Shuey. Looking deep, Gutowski. It's a nice throw. Shuey put it where only Gumby could get it. Radicals within 5 with 10 minutes to go.
Gutowski sets that up by coming under on the break side. So we get a look earlier in the point. There's Chun Moy unable to bring that one in. The deep shot to Crapful. Chun Moy doing a good job positioning himself on the back side there and maintaining his position. That is an unbelievable block there from Cam Lacey. Just unbelievable. From the diagonal opposite shoulder, making up ground, and there's a small window for him to get it, and Gutowski pulls Burnett under, sells that cut, takes off deep. Not a whole lot Burnett can do when you got a perfect throw leading Gutowski there.
4 goals for Gutowski, but not enough for the Radicals. As long as Minnesota can maintain possession and punch in some holes, they should be okay. But that is not what they're looking for. Berry with an unnecessary crossfield shot through the traffic.
Put his hands on his head immediately.
Carrico's got a couple guys going deep. And Ben Feldman's going to use, I beg your pardon, Jake Spyro takes the timeout. It's the final timeout for the Radicals. Win or lose, the Radicals players often congregate at a restaurant down the street from Bree Stevens Field called the Brass Ring. It has been the post-game spot for Madison for a long time. If you go to the Brass Ring and ask the bartender for a Spyro, they will make you a Jake Spyro inspired drink that's similar to a White Russian, but a little different.
That's an honor.
And I think, as far as I know, he's the only coach who's got a signature drink named after him at the post-game hangout spot in the entire UFA. And he's just a first-year head coach.
That's an honor.
And
if anyone listening has information to the contrary, we'd love to know.
And I called him Jake. Only a couple people call him Jake, and he prefers Jacob, so I apologize. Most everyone with the Radicals just calls him Spyro. He wins a championship, and he'll become the dude.
The dude abides.
Oh,
Evan, you're out of your element.
It's a technical foul on Marcus. They called a foul on Hansen, and then Marcus threw the extracurricular shoulder, and Noah's telling him all about it. So there was a foul on Minnesota, and then a technical on Madison. One of the rule changes in the UFA this year, separating technical fouls from flagrant fouls. Flagrant fouls are unsportsmanlike plays that are physical contact, and technicals are more kind of after the play type stuff. You can get 2 technicals and be ejected, or 2 flagrants and be ejected. Theoretically, you could get 1 flagrant and 1 technical and stay in the game. I don't know how I feel about it, but that's what the rules committee decided. And I think it's reasonable.
Yeah, I'm okay with viewing that as reasonable as well.
A chance for Madison to get within 4 here. And Ian, you and I, well, there's that. Justin Burnett picks off the reset. Looking for Pollard, and Bergmeyer hooked the throw out of bounds. I was just going to say that we saw New York come back from 4 goals down with about 7 minutes to play in Boston.
That's right.
In
not too
shocking
long.
fashion on Friday Night Frisbee back in week 3. I would be very stunned to see that replicated here tonight, but you never know. Madison's within 4 with 7:17 to play.
I mean, you see the frustration there from Pollard. He's like, hey man, I got acres of space. Just put it somewhere in bounds where I can catch it. And how much would Madison love to have a healthy Sterling Kanaki right now? Get out there, get some blocks.
Yeah, I saw Sterling.
Oh, Pole misses everybody.
Saw Sterling before the game. Saw Andrew Mechanix over there as well. Good to see Mesh. Radicals are playing to retire his number 2 jersey later this season. He was such a defensive Iron Man from the very beginning for this Radicals team. One of the real innovative defenders, implementing the Tim DeBile zone that, you know, took the UFA by storm in the early years. Brandt just across midfield. I mean, all's well that ends well if the wind chill can hold here on this possession and kind of reassert themselves. If they don't, then it gets a little interesting. And that's a shot to the end zone that Vanny Mortel runs down. And switching Tristan onto the O-line here in the second half has helped them. On a night when Will Brandt wasn't having his best throwing game, Vanny Mortel has taken a little bit of the burden off Brandt's shoulders. And whatever role they put Tristan in, he seems to deliver.
Yeah, I've loved his game going back to his college days at Grey Duck, and it's been really fun to watch him kind of grow and evolve and be really effective with the disc here in the UFA at the pro level.
He was a college champion in 2016. Also a U24 USA gold medalist in 2018. There are 4 members of this Windchill team that are getting ready to head to Spain this week to play in the next iteration of U24 Worlds. Of course, another member of the Windchill, Quinn Snyder, is currently in London playing at the London Invite Tournament with the Canadian World Games team. And DeClercq gets another block, padding his lead atop Windchill's franchise history. And Hansen to Shope quickly.
I mean, this isn't the first time that we've seen Madison downfield receivers just simply not run through the disc. They think they can stop, and yeah, that's the emotion that you've come to expect from Dylan DeClercq. And
I mean, in championship weekend in front of the hometown fans is one thing, but this just goes to show you, regular season, big lead, fourth quarter, he still brings the intensity. He's a gamer.
No question
every
about it.
sense of the word.
No question about it. And I think that's going to be a point of emphasis for the Radicals O-line when they're watching film, trying to get ready for their next game. Obviously, they go to Detroit quickly this weekend, but
quick turnaround against a Mechanix team. Wow. I mean, it's good hustle from Kraftful to get credit for the block. It looked like he was the intended target as Pierre and Robert broke off deep, and the throw from McCoskey came coming under. Yeah, Madison, they hope it's a get-right game tomorrow against the Mechanix, who've lost 88 of their last 89, dating back to April of 2017. They did snap the losing streak that was in the 80s last year. Hansen pushes off. Offensive foul. No, timeout. Minnesota timeout. Hansen slaps 5 with McCoskey. They were teammates with the Windchill a year ago. Minnesota has represented the Central at championship weekend each of the past 2 years. They got to play at home. In 2023, lost a heartbreaker. Last year, though, a different story. As Bighorns held the disc as time expired, they shocked the DC Breeze, they shocked the Carolina Flyers, they shocked the ultimate Frisbee world in Salt Lake City to win the 2024 title. Of course, the Madison Radicals know what that feels like. Colin Camp and Pat Schreiwise and Kevin Brown and everyone on that 2016 team, or 2018 team right here at Breese Stevens Field. That was a special weekend. Again, 10 weeks from tonight, this iconic venue will host championship weekend for the 4th time. Dallas won it all here in 2016, their undefeated inaugural season. Then the Radicals got them back in the finals in 2018. 3 years ago, it was New York finishing off their perfect season in 2022 against the Chicago Union here at Breese Stevens Field. Some of the league's greatest games have unfolded right here in Madison. And the wind chill have made this a pretty fun place to visit as well, because tonight is going to be their 6th win in their last 7 trips to Breese Stevens Field. Before that, no one had ever won here in the Central Division. I mean, Madison had this division on lock for such a long time. They were a dominant home field team, especially against their own division. But Minnesota, by emulating a lot of what Madison did to rise to the top, has surpassed them, and that's pretty clear tonight.
Yeah, there's a great relationship that exists between Ben Feldman and Tim DeBile, and you know, it's hard to think that there are really any state secrets between those two coaching staffs. I mean, obviously, they have their own wrinkles and specific idiosyncrasies, but you look at the way, you know, the times that Minnesota elects to use a double team in an opportunistic situation. You look at the way their defensive sets are structured, you see a ton of similarity because Feldman learned a lot of that strategy from DeBile, and he and his staff have kind of crafted and made some of it their own, and it's been really, really important to Minnesota's success, in addition to attracting great talent, cultivating great youth talent, and getting that buy-in and commitment at the pro level.
The other thing, Ian, is the personnel. I mean, yes, this Minnesota team has that young core of Brandt and Krennic and Shope and Larson and Hansen and other guys that are just recently or even still in college. But they also have the veterans that have been there before, DeClerc and Klain and Bighorns and Brandon Mattis, who's injured but provides so much leadership from the sidelines. You look at the all-time stats, 8 of Minnesota's top 10 scorers all time are still on the team in 2025. The Radicals have 0 of their top 10 scorers all time on this year's team. Now, Anthony Gutowski is one of those guys that by the end of his journey could get there.
No doubt.
But he doesn't have the championship winning DNA. And frankly, no one on this current Madison team does, other than, you know, Kelson Alexander, Josh Wilson. But they are kind of the last of the old guard, with KPS and Mechanix retiring and Pat Schreiwise retiring and Brian Hart stepping away after last year. It is a transition time for the Radicals for sure. 3:03 to go after Gumby's 5th goal of the night.
I mean, at this point, he's just playing for the camera.
You said Minnesota has their big game on July 4th at Chicago. They are home for Indy next weekend before a couple weeks off, and then the Chicago game on Independence Day. That's a 4 p.m. Central Time matinee at Chicago's beautiful stadium on the Northwestern campus in Evanston. Madison is at Detroit tomorrow. Next 2 games for the Radicals are against the Mechanix and then another game against Indy. So a great chance for Madison. They'll be 3-3. They'll try to get to 6-3 before the home stretch, which gets a little tougher. There's a block. Carrico jumps the passing lane for Madison's D. Chunmoy stumbling, keeps it alive. Lead fourth. Closing in on 2 minutes to play as Chunmoy connects with a sliding Wilson, and he's in the end zone to Madison break with 2 minutes to go.
Well, not the first time tonight that there's been a clean strike cut that another Radicals defender has been able to poach off and block. And I don't say that to put that on Klain. Just something I noticed, and a little something for the crowd to get excited about on an otherwise disappointing second half.
Reminder, tomorrow 7 o'clock exclusively on watchufa.tv. Get your subscription in order if you still need to do so, because you don't want to miss the Breeze and the Empire meeting for the second week in a row after their showdown on Friday Night Frisbee last week. And next Friday night we'll be back in New York for the Rush and the Empire. I am really excited to see that new look Rush team in person for the first time. And you know, Arvids Karklins and Tom Zabeltines from Latvia and Tom Blasman from the Netherlands. And there's a nice hammer, and it's going to fall right into a sliding Dylan DeClerc's breadbasket. How about that shot? He knows the camera's on him.
I mean, great shot there from Berglund. And if anything, yelling and booing, which is what the crowd was doing, is just going to fire up DeClerc even more. I mean, I don't know what more he can do when they're up by 6 with 90 seconds left, but I don't want to anger that guy.
21st goal of the night for Minnesota compared to their 20 turnovers. It has not been the cleanest of games. Winchell just 4 of 13s according to the official stats on their hucks. 4 of 13 on their hucks. But Madison, the 25 turns, and just the careless ones early in possessions were the backbreakers. And Minnesota's D-line deserves a lot of credit for the pressure they've provided, but Madison has also had plenty of gifts. Good pressure there. I think he pulled it. Yeah, that might be a souvenir. Is it going to be caught in the stands? Oh, it might have been a strip in the crowd. Final minute. Minnesota's going to improve to 5-1 this season. They're going to improve to 6-1 in their last 7 here at Breese-Stevens Field. They're going to win their 12th straight game on the road, whether it's a true road game or a neutral site championship weekend game. It's going to be their 12th consecutive win outside of the Twin Cities. And another highlight as Savel Fernandez's hammer hauled in by Krampfel. The Luther College alum with another stat and extends the Winchell lead to 7 on a night when Minnesota's going to earn its 100th win in franchise history.
Well, you kind of hinted at this earlier, but if we had any question, it feels like the Central Division is really a race between Minnesota and Chicago. This was a big opportunity for tonight for Madison to reposition themselves and show that last week's close matchup, holy cow, a lot of physicality there from J-Dub.
I think we just got an integrity rule. Minnesota defender said no foul, and we play on. Looking for Chun Moy. Past Hansen.
Well, just to finish the thought.
Please.
You know, tonight was an opportunity for Madison to prove that that close game against Chicago wasn't really a fluke, wasn't an outlier, but tonight's performance kind of raises more questions for me than gives convincing answers about what this team can do. And hey, you get to the playoffs,
you never know.
You never know, but looking at what we're seeing tonight, this isn't putting their best foot forward.
What'd you learn tonight about the Minnesota wind chill?
You know, this is kind of boring, but I don't know that I learned anything about them. This was a Minnesota wind chill victory, right? It wasn't the prettiest game. It wasn't the cleanest victory. They found a way to turn up the pressure, squeeze the clamps a little bit, and in so doing, they were able to find separation through the strength of their defense. We still saw some instances where their offense needed a little more consistency. Here's the final throw.
Pollard going for the jump, and he was boxed out by Sam Stark, and Luke Marks bats it away, and hopefully he didn't hurt himself. And that's how tonight's game concludes. Final score, Minnesota 22, Madison 16. And the Minnesota wind chill join the Empire, the Radicals, the Rush, the Flyers, and the Breeze as the 6th team in UFA history to earn their 100th franchise victory. Of that group, the DC Breeze, the only one that has not yet won a championship.
Something I'm sure they love to be reminded of regularly.
See what they got tomorrow at New York. It was a close game at the half, and then it really unraveled for Madison in the third. And Minnesota piled on the brakes. They finished with 11 on the night compared to Madison's 4.
Yeah, I think so much about what could have been for Madison tonight. I think about how they could have started this game up 2-0, how they were so close starting the second quarter, even going into half, and they just kind of undid themselves, in addition to Minnesota converting and applying pressure. But so much of that third quarter was also, and other parts of this game was Minnesota undoing themselves, giving the disc away, and not converting on the opportunities they had.
Dylan DeClercq finishes a game-high plus, or I should say Brian Vinoka finishes a game-high +8 with 5 goals, 2 assists, and 1 block. But our Pabst Light post-game conversation is going to go with Dylan DeClercq. He had 3 goals and 1 block for the Minnesota wind chill D-line. That produced 11 breaks on the night. Dylan DeClercq is standing by with Grace.
Dylan, that game didn't start off too hot for you guys. What mindset shift did you have that made it turn around so much in your favor?
Yeah, it was a little bit of mindset and a little bit about just like starting to play good offense and stop turning the disc over. Like it was a lot less about mindset and a lot more about execution. Like we're a better team than we played in the first half, and I think we showed it in a lot of the second half, but we still got a long ways to go and a lot to improve. So,
what's it like playing here at Breeze Stevens?
It's fun. We don't lose here. It's like a second home. So our fans travel. It's nice and close, and we've had a lot of good games. There's a lot of fans that bring a lot of energy, but we usually walk away with the win, and that's a lot of fun. So,
you guys are currently second in the division standings, right behind Chicago. Do you have anything to say to that? Are you excited for your game against Chicago in the next 2 weeks? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's 4th of July, and I promise there's going to be some fireworks. So Chicago's a good team, and we think we're a pretty good team as well. So,
well said. Do you want to kick off the weekend with the Pabst Light can opener? Oh my gosh! All right, don't drink it. Back to the booth. Thanks, Dylan.
Thank you, Grace. Yeah, that's a Chicago-Minnesota game 3 weeks from today, 4th of July. I like what Dylan said. There will be fireworks in that one.
I like that too. I also like his awareness and understanding exactly where he's at, knowing this team has a lot to improve.
For Grace Bulow and Ian Toner, I'm Evan Lepler saying good night from Bree Stevens Field. Radicals win it. Windshield win it, excuse me. 22-16 Minnesota. Now has won 6 of their last 7 at Breeze. And they are 5-1 in 2025. Have a good weekend, everybody. We'll see you next week in New York.